Hi. One time when our kids were young, they said the days are long, but the years are short. I said, that is really accurate because some of those days it feels like they never end, and then you blink and.
Okay, we're gonna get started.
These 4 years have gone by fast.
Chris, we're gonna get started. Good morning.
Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good. Hey, I'm just gonna, we are here today, it's Thursday, October 14th, 2021. We have a school board workshop agenda. It is 10:03. We are beginning our meeting. Today's purpose of the workshop is to finalize the superintendent profile for the promotional flyer or job description and online application form, and then also the superintendent salary and benefits. I'm going to be turning this over to Molly. She'll be running the meeting, as well as today I want to welcome Attorney Quick, who will be with us for this meeting as well. Molly, if you would go ahead and begin and just let us know what we need to pull up, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everybody. Really bad on your end, too.
No, we're good.
Okay. All right, so I'm actually going to turn it over to Mr. Collins first. He's going to open and go over some themes and kind of what we heard with other groups, and then we'll start diving into the data. So the Excel spreadsheet where it has all the numbers and all the different columns. So if you want to have that ready to roll, we'll dive into that once Mr. Collins kind of goes through an overview of what we saw and what we heard.
Is that the consulting, the ranking recommendation sheet?
Raw score sheet.
Thank you.
Do I have to make a motion?
Yes.
Okay, if you go to board docs.
I don't have board docs. Is that crazy?
We may have to do this by
And we have all the documents.
People at home who are listening won't be able to hear anything. So we'd like to fix that before we get too far into it.
Appreciate that. My agent's ears are having a hard time hearing him, so can we turn the volume up and hear just a little bit, please?
I don't think that's a problem.
Thank you.
So does everybody know where they're at?
enhancing student achievement. Second. What are you asking me? So the second was recruitment and retention of staff. Third was fostering a productive and respectful board superintendent relationship. Fourth was embracing and responding to the range of diversity within the community. And fifth was managing the finances and facilities of the community in a transparent and equitable manner.
Okay, it's not on the list because he's reading what they took from the forums that they held. These are the come up these.
Ms. Morgan, will you speak in the?
Okay, he is telling us what their takeaways were from the various groups that they talked to. There is not necessarily a direct relationship to the survey questions. He is giving us other information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr.
Yeah.
Collins.
The good news is these overall themes are also reflected in the results of the survey. And then from your board interviews, some themes that emerge. One was to bring the board together as a collective body and working with the superintendent for the benefit of students. Number two, getting the right people in the right place on the bus, as the quote goes, and driving the bus in the direction of equity and student achievement. Responding to the economic and cultural diversity of students, families, and communities.
This to us because the audio is really, really bad. And we are having an incredibly difficult time following what you're saying, given the documents we have in front of us.
Okay, I will email. I'm going to email this to you anyway. I just wanted you to have the team. Why don't you go on, Molly?
Yeah, Ms. Gittens has a question as well. Mr. Collins?
Good morning, Mr. Collins. Do you think you could send us, we have the workshops that you held, we have the survey, and we have the board responses, right? Those are the
Correct.
3 avenues. Is it possible for you to send us, based on the 31 characteristics, that breakdown of which was number 1, 2, and 3, let's say, in each category? Because then we can compare apples to apples.
You'll get the breakdown on the survey. The themes are strictly what we pulled out of all those groups, not in priority order.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, each avenue that you used was based on the 31 characteristics. So if we had a list that had the 31 characteristics and the workshops, the town halls is one column, what was their first, second, and third. The survey, what was their first, second, and third. And with the board members.
Gunetta, this is Molly. There's a document called the Top 10 Survey where it has the groups broken down that participated in the survey. That's as close as we can get to what you're requesting. We did not go through the survey items one by one with the town hall, so we can't identify those as their own group. So when they took the survey, those people that participated in the town halls identified themselves either as a student or a parent or support staff or administrators. And that document you'll see, we're going to go through here actually next, where it has the ranking for each group, for the teachers, for the admin, for your support staff, for your parents, and it compares them to one another.
Okay, so on that document, I'm looking at that one now, the raw scores. So perhaps it would be easier if we could have a version of this that's sorted in a way that we can see the top 3 from all the groups.
You will see the top 10 on the second page. Let us get through that document with you and explain it and see if that doesn't help answer your questions. If it doesn't, then we'll dive back into it and see what we can do. But I think you and I are saying the same thing, just in a different way.
Okay.
Mike, are you all done? Okay. All right, so we're actually going to pull up that document that we were just discussing. It's the top 10 survey, Lee County, and it looks like an Excel document, and there's 2 pages. I'm not going to go through it item by item. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but we are going to go through it and make sure everybody understands it, and then we'll go through the explanation as well. So if everybody could pull up that document, the very first page, it's the raw score sheet. And this just tells you where each category listed for each group. So number 1, you'll see the teachers. You had 1,165 English participants. You had 54 Spanish. You had 1 Creole participant. For your administrators, you had 161 English, 5 Spanish, and 0 Creole. Support staff, you had 484 English participants. You had 17 Spanish participants and 0 Creole participants. For parents, you had 3,953 English, 368 Spanish, 15 Creole. For students, you had 99 English, 5 Spanish, and 1 Creole. And with the non-parent community members, you had 264 English, 2 Spanish, and 0 Creole. 100% of your board did participate. So we're not going to go through each of the 31 qualities, but you can look at real quick. So for number 1, willing to listen to input and is a decision maker was the number 1 quality on the survey. Teachers, 819 in that column, selected that within their top 10. So thus it ranked number 2. If you look at administrators, 105 participated and selected number 1 as their quality within their top 10, so it ranked number 2. Support staff, 345 people identified that within their top 10, so it ranked number 1 for them. Parents, 2,810 identified that quality, so it ranked number 1. For students, 72 identified that within their top 10, it ranked number 1 as well. For the non-parent community members, 138 people identified that within their top 10, so it ranked 4th. The Board of Education, 2 identified it within their top 10, so it ranked number 11. So that's the first sheet. I'm not going to go through each of the 31 qualities. Does anybody have any questions on the raw and ranking side of this only? We're not going to get into comparing yet. That's the next sheet. But does anybody have any questions on this first page?
From anybody? Go ahead, Molly.
Okay, perfect. So then the next page is where we get into the fun stuff. It just has the ranking. So the raw scores are removed. This is just the ranking, and it's a comparative. So we're comparing the teachers to the administrators, to the support staff, to the parents, to students, to non-parent community members, and the Board of Education. So it does an overall. So you will see the Board of Education's overall rank. And what I did is I went in and I highlight the top 10. You'll see that there are several duplicates. That's not a mistake. It just means that there's ties. So there were ties for the 10th position. There were ties for 7th. So we went through and just highlighted all of them. And then the combined ranking is the fun part. That's where it takes all of the groups. So the teachers, the administrators, your support staff, your parents, your students, and your non-parent community members, and ranks them as a whole. And we do this specifically. The board has their own columns because you are our client and because this is your 1 hire. So we are comparing you to the other groups all combined into 1. I'm going to be very honest with you all. We do put a little bit more weight on the board because, again, it is your 1 employee and you are our client. We try to incorporate both sides, but when it comes down to if there's a tie for some reason, we're going to put more weight on the board's thoughts and their perceptions than the community. But with that being said, I went through on the combined ranking and I highlighted the top 12 just because of the duplicates within the board. So you'll see the yellow highlighting, and that's where those were the higher ranks. So we went in, and if there was a duplicate where the combined ranking and the Board of Education both ranked that within their top 10, that was an automatic recommend. So you'll see that you've got recommended number 1, willing to listen to input, but is a decision maker. Has leadership skills to respond to opportunities, challenges of diverse student body and community was number 2. That's also a recommend. 5, strong moral compass, rooted in justice and equality. Number 6, strong communicator in speaking, listening, and writing. So those are our 2 other recommends. Number 8, has experience recruiting and maintaining exceptional staff for the district and schools. Number 11, ability to delegate and oversee work of staff and maintain accountability. Number 12, experience with effective management that will benefit the long-term financial health of the district. 15, strongly committed to student-centered philosophy in all decisions. 25, possesses ability to enhance student performance, identify and close narrow gaps. 28, promotes a positive and professional environment with mutual trust, respect among employees and board. So those were your top 10. And I will tell you, I know that, and I'm just going to talk about the elephant in the room, guys. I hope that's okay. You know, when Mike and I first started going down this survey with everybody, we thought that there would be a big spread between stakeholders and the board. I was very pleasantly surprised. I know that you guys don't see this every day. Mike and I do. Typically, there's additional qualities that would be listed as a consider because they may be very strong for your group and not the board, or very strong for the board and not the group. You do not have that here. You were very much aligned within your stakeholders, which made my job very easy, and I appreciate it. So thank you to everyone who's listening, and thank you to your board. It made it very easy. And I don't want to go through the comments one by one. You all have those in both the Creole and Spanish are translated, and then obviously the English as well. I would encourage you to review those. We're not going to go through them one by one, but they line up very much along with your results from what we're looking at here with the breakdown of your top 10. So with that being said, the ones that are listed with recommend, Lauren, if you want to pull up the sheet of okay.
Trying to keep up with where you're going, but you did mention that the board numbers, so that column that says Board of Education and total, are those the 2, the rank and raw score for the board only, correct?
On the first page?
On the second page with the highlighted yellows and recommended.
So, no, the total.
No, not that page, the other one.
All of them.
I'm sorry?
The total column lists all of them. So that's the sum of the board, the non-parent, the students, the parents, support staff, administrators, and teachers. The ranking for the board is strictly just the board's ranking. The combined ranking has everybody ranked in one lump.
The raw total includes everyone in that total column. But when you say,
line, yes.
okay, so when you say,
column.
but the combined ranking column, does that include the board? I thought I heard you say that you didn't have the board in one of them.
No, so the board has their own column. The combined ranking is your stakeholders, so that you can see your stakeholders compared to the board.
So in other words, here's where I'm going with this. Number 1 in the ranking of all of the stakeholders is has leadership skills to respond to opportunities, challenges, diverse student body and community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's number 2, but it was ranked number 1 with your overall stakeholders and number 3 within the board.
Okay. So when you said that we're pretty close together, like number 2 for all of the combined is willing to listen to input but is a decision maker is number 11 for the board. Am I correct?
That's line 1, yes, you are.
Kind of. This is where it's going to get a little confusing. If you look in the Board of Education column, you're going to see there's a lot of duplicates. And that doesn't mean that it was ranked number 11. It just means that it tied for actually 8. So you'll see you've got 1 in number 6 and 1 in number 28. So there's no 2. So then we go into 3, and you have a 3 in 12 and number 2. So then that's a 3 and 4. So there's no 4 essentially. Does that make sense? And you go all the way through. So it's not actually 11th. It's just within that top tier. But we don't know, because there are so many ties, it doesn't break it down onto who's 10 and 11. It lumps them all together for the ties.
8 11s, there was an 8-way tie on 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is there
All
any
right.
are there any other questions regarding this? Ms. Fisher, did you have?
Yeah, is that the tie between the board and the stakeholders?
No,
It's just the board.
Board.
Oh,
It's going to happen that way when there's 7 people.
Ms. Morgan?
So Molly, are we going to have an opportunity to talk about why certain things were chosen? Because I would like to talk about my overall reaction to this, what I would take out and what I would put in as a board member.
So we're going to we're going to look at what the top 10 qualities are on a separate document so you can see them verbally, and then we will open that for discussion, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes?
Go ahead, please. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Ms. Vaughn has a comment.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment. I think what makes it really easy, I see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 7 items that we as a board rank in the top 10, and overall, we're in the top 10, and all of those are recommend on your part. I mean, I find it really interesting that there are only a couple areas where there's a huge gulf, like has classroom experience in K-12. We didn't think that was that important, maybe because we also indicated, some of us, about hybrid experience. And there's some where there's a huge gulf, but I think it's great that we start out with 7 items where we're all in the top 10 out of 31 traits.
Absolutely. And I do want to give everybody a pat on the back. I know I touched on it briefly, but this doesn't happen very often, you guys. This is very uncommon. A lot of times there's a big spread, like what you're seeing for number 31. We see that a lot throughout the entire survey. So when I was going through this, I was really proud of your stakeholders and really proud of you as a board that there wasn't the big gap, that everybody was pretty much aligned. That doesn't happen all that often.
When I send you the copy of the 5 themes and so forth, you're going to find that those themes are in the top 10, and all the themes surface in the top 10 as well. So there's an overall reinforcement of what you as a community and you as a board are looking for in your next leader.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Molly?
Yes.
Go ahead,
So the
please.
next document, if we could pull up, it's the School District of Lee County Speaks. And that's all it is, guys, is just the top 10 without all the other qualities. You can see them right in front of you. And this is what we're recommending based off of your stakeholder involvement, based off of the board survey results, based off of what we heard from our board one-on-ones, as well as what we heard during the group sessions that Mike mentioned those themes on. So this is what we'd be recommending to put on your promotional flyer on that back side where it says Superintendent Speaks. This is what we'd be recommending. And I want to go ahead and open up the table for discussion and deliberation. But I do want to caution everybody that we invited your stakeholders to participate in the survey, telling them that their input would be valued and there would be an accountability for. So we don't want to change it too much because the number of people that showed up is huge. And I think it speaks to your stakeholders. You had over 6,000 participants. That is huge. So we want to be conscientious of them taking their time to share their values and their inputs as well.
Ms. Morgan?
Okay, Molly, so I've gone through this, and your I guess your 9th thing, possesses the ability to enhance student performance. Every respondent, I believe, including the board, for item number 25, did not rank that in the top 10. And I guess I should make a general comment. I think it's a little, the characteristics are a little too internal, and we don't have one item that talks about community relationships, partnerships, and so looking at item 18, experience, oh no, that's not the one I want to look at.
Ms. Berger, could you tell us 18 on which page,
Okay,
please?
so these sheets refer back to
The number.
the number.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm
Quality
talking
number,
about,
though.
so,
The quality number.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, I am looking at, maybe 18 is not the right one.
Looking at 24?
Yes, okay, so
That's what I marked,
24,
what you were saying.
yeah, 24 is highly ranked by us, but not highly ranked by the community as a whole. And well, I believe that belongs in there. I believe that we need to address our relationship with the community in some way. And frankly, I would take out number 25, which is possesses the ability to enhance student performance, especially in identifying and closing or narrowing the gaps in student achievement, et cetera. That is in our strategic plan, and that's really the responsibility of the academic chief. So while I recognize that overall we're interested in improving student achievement, I think from the point of view of what the superintendent's responsibilities are in that goal, I think that everybody rated it less than 10. I think that should come out, and we should be putting in something about community instead. Those are my comments.
And I would encourage you to take a peek at some of the qualities that are selected as recommended that have community in there. Specifically, number 2 has a mention of community, and it says has leadership skills to respond to opportunities, challenges of diverse student body, and community. We talk about community there. And then even number 7 is commitment to visibility and actively engage in broad range of community groups. That ranked within the top 10 for the board. It did rank 25 for the community. But I would encourage everybody to kind of take a look at what's recommended. I'm hesitant. And again, I'm just your consultant. This is your choice as a board. But as your consultant, I'm hesitant to go ahead and add in 24, just because if you look across the board with your stakeholders, it was at the very end for every other group. So I don't want to discourage your stakeholders by saying your value wasn't important or we disregarded what your survey numbers came out and drove and said. So I would just encourage you to maybe look at the qualities that are recommended or the ones that are maybe a little bit closer together than one that's ranked 29th overall. And that's just as your consultant. Again, as your board, you all can identify what qualities you want on this flyer. It's your hire, it's your decision. But I would encourage you to really maybe deliberate a little bit further on that.
I was going to respond, and then I will be quiet. I think that in some areas, for example, the example that Ms. Vaughn gave about the hybrid superintendent, we see things as a board differently than the community does, and that's part of our responsibility. So even though the community doesn't see this as important, I personally believe that if we're going to do something about early childhood education, if we're going to do something about career and technical education, those are critical goals for us, and that requires a statement to me about community engagement. And now I will be quiet. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, I agree with what Ms. Morgan said, that there are things that we're cognizant of that wouldn't come to mind with the community. I think looking at number 15, which was highly ranked in both the community and the board, student-centered philosophy in all decisions, that trait might actually somehow be merged or tweaked just a little bit to include the one that was high for the
Narrowing the gaps as
community.
student.
Yeah, that we can actually kind of
Consolidate.
combine, tweak, and look at the actual comments. So-
What do you think about that, Molly? Because I have to agree with them too, with everything that we are working on, the stakeholders and community is definitely a priority that we have to keep.
No, and I hear you all, and I'm not trying to be negative Nancy on this, I promise. I'm not trying to be negative on this just as your consultant. I'm okay with wordsmithing a little bit on 15 and adding something about community. What I want to warn you and I warned Ms. Jordan about this, and I'm a stickler on certain things. We cannot change the words on too many of these, and we can't start changing the overall theme, because then we completely tell your stakeholders that we didn't really value your input, and we're changing it anyway to make it fit what we want. And as a board, you do not want to do that, and I've seen boards do it. So just as your consultant, I do just want to caution you on that. We can certainly add in a word or two on 15 where it brings in that community piece. Absolutely. I just don't want to start nitpicking and wordsmithing all the qualities.
I think that Ms. Vaughn, though, was speaking on bringing, adding to 15, adding like narrowing the gap, adding that to the,
25 and 15?
Yeah, the student center, because that's still, we're listening to community, we're listening to the stakeholders, but all we're doing is we're adding that particular student achievement, everything into student-centered, where we're concentrating on the child.
Absolutely. No, and that's totally doable. I just wanted to put that caution out there because I've had boards want to get in here and start changing words and changing the overall themes of qualities, and we just can't do that.
No, I just, exactly what Mrs. Jordan said, to include the one that we feel is really important, working with our businesses, we would include the student-centered, but that's a rather short trait, and we can add just a little bit from below to, in what way are we student-centered by, and using that trait that was so important to stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll combine 25 and 15 is kind of what I'm hearing.
Yep.
What do you all think about that, ladies?
I agree with that. I think that in order to be in charge of implementing the strategic plan, those characteristics are critical, and the connection with the community and the stakeholders is paramount, I think, to almost anything else.
So then, would you be okay with, and we're not going to change all of these as Molly has, shared with us, but moving 25 and taking 25 and 15 and consolidating, and that's giving the community what they are asking for from us. Ms. Gittens?
Well, I'm going to throw another monkey wrench in it because I was crunching the numbers as to, we keep talking about the stakeholders in the community, and I'm just a little bit concerned of the numbers. For example, with the parents, there was a total of 4,336, 8% Spanish and 0.03% were Creole. On the administrators, teachers, 4% Spanish, 8%, 0.008%. Students, a total of 105, and only 0.005% Spanish and Creole. Non-parents, total of 266. Either 0% Creole and 0.00 Spanish. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm a little concerned that do we have a real representation of our community as and I know there were efforts to contact and to put it out there in English and Creole and Spanish, but the result says to me that we really could have or should have done some more. And that is a concern for me. When we're looking at the overall picture, I don't know how representative this is of our student body.
Hey, Molly, this is not like the ranking, this is, does this show the surveys, all the thousands of surveys that came back? Does that separate them into categories?
It does. If you look at that top, the top 10 survey, that top line where it has the teachers, it has it broken down by how many participants for each group.
Surveys, or was that from the groups that we actually had? The attendance. The surveys alone. So, because we did have the attendance as well.
Well, and that was worse representation.
But
so.
what I can say is that we put this out for a month. 1 month we promoted this, actually a little over a month that we promoted this, as well as contacting pretty much everybody that we possibly could think of to participate. Given them numerous ways to participate, whether it was by Zoom meetings, public meetings, surveys.
Can I just say to that,
Yes.
if I may, one of the concerns, and I did mention it to Ray and Associates, that I know we're in the midst of COVID and all of that, but the only public meetings were here at the district office. I really feel that if there were, and it's after the fact, I know, but if we had at a couple of churches or a couple of community schools or something where people are, we did not go to the community. We asked the community to come to us. And I know all of that. It goes back kind of systemically for quite a while when I talk about communication. Yes, we put it out there, we give them this choice and this choice, but those choices are not what meets that community's needs. And they are not going to come down here. They are not going to get on a Zoom meeting. We have to find a way. If we are representing all of our students, we have to find better ways to represent them. And that could mean, they're at church on Wednesday nights, they're at church on Sundays, and some of them are at church all day. So we could have had something, or a representative or something, to find and let them understand what we were doing. It is not okay to just say, it's out there, and we gave them opportunities when we didn't go to them.
I'm going to come back. I'm going to go to Ms. Morgan, Ms. Fisher, then Ms. Giovanelli, and then I'm going to respond to that.
I think what Ms. Gittens is referring to is our responsibility. It's our responsibility to go to the community. It's not, it's our responsibility to invite them into churches individually as board members. We're elected. We represent our community. So that would be my response. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, and I just want to piggyback on that. I agree with that statement. And just historically, I will tell you that that has been the way that we have gotten some more response from the community when people from the schools have gone to other places with their meetings and with their surveys and getting in partnerships with churches. I mean, we have a few schools in the Cape who are working with Cape Christian, and the response has been much better than it's been typically. But that has always been, I think, one of the biggest challenges is the parent and community involvement, is reaching the people who don't feel comfortable coming here and who live a different lifestyle. And they're working people, and they don't have a lot of time, and they may have 4 or 5 children that they have to worry about taking care of and keeping a roof over their heads. So this would be something that would be low on their list. But I agree with you, and that is our responsibility. So and we can also engage our schools in doing that, but that has not been as easy to do these past several years as it once was. And we've grown exponentially.
Ms. G.
Thank you. So I actually brought up the digital divide, and I think that that is an issue. And I'm sorry, but we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. People aren't going, as many people are not going to church. They're not attending a lot of things. So therefore, it is upon us, the burden is on us, but we have to think outside the box and be doing things that is going to allow for opportunity. And we should have had, I believe we should have had, at least in each zone, that would have only been 3 meetings, had us at a high school and had a meeting there to have the discussion about the superintendent. And we didn't do that. And I think that, in my interview, I brought up the digital divide and how we are going to combat that. And because a lot of people don't have internet once they leave McDonald's. I mean, that's where they go for their, the service. So, or, places that have the internet capable ability. So, I mean, I think that, I think the numbers, I mean, I know she recommend, but I mean, I look at 15 Spanish, I mean, we're 55% majority community, and 15 people, Spanish, and 17 English. I mean, that's not a lot on this actual survey. So there's the digital divide is clear. It's right here in the numbers. It's quite clear. So I think we have to think about that. And I'm sorry, but I don't think we reach everyone that we should be reaching, especially the people that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to tell you, the schools reached out to everyone. They made sure that they had participation from everybody, regardless of if you worked in the kitchen area, if you worked in the janitory, wherever you worked, they made sure that they got representation from there. The schools disseminated the information continuously to the families and the parents to make sure that, to get engagement with this. I know personally that I reached out to multiple people in the churches that are like the heads of their church to share that information, to make sure that they were participating. And I did walk around because I wanted to make sure that we had the survey that was up there, that they could go on and get that information, and there was opportunities. So I think that perhaps we could have gone to the schools, but I know that I feel that we really have reached out to, we try to reach out to everybody without omitting anybody. We certainly did not want to do that. Ms. Gittens?
Well, I just want to give one quick little anecdote, and we can move on. But I was at a school this week, and I was talking to teachers about, what are some of the things needs that they have. And this one teacher gave me a story about a student that stays after school every day as long as someone is there to stay with them, because they want to get their work in and they have no connectivity at their house. So and I understand there's ways to do it, and we won't belabor it now. It's a done deal, but I still think we could do better.
If I may interject, your conversation lead you to what you need to do with your new leader systemically as well as individually. Secondarily, I just want to refresh our memory that we've chosen to combine 15 and 24 in a fashion that will make sure you guys are good with. And then if we take these, and when you're ready to move forward, but in terms of questions about community or business engagement, keep in mind that in the interview process, you will have opportunities to craft questions that will give you an opportunity to ask questions around certain subjects that you as a board think are important. So this isn't by any means your last bite at the apple in terms of getting responses from candidates.
Or from the public, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No, you'll come back. Yeah, there'll be a whole other process for the public.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, and I was just going to say that I understand Ms. Gittens' concern, But at this point, shoulda, coulda kind of things it just doesn't serve us. This is what it is, and I think it's incredible that we, with the community that did respond, and it's a broad cut of the community, we're together on so many of these things. And I think moving from this point, our best movement now is taking the community and our own feelings, adding in the importance of working with our businesses and other community organizations, that we move on, use these to find our very best choice for superintendent. And then, obviously we've identified getting out to the community in better ways. And as Mr. Collins said, that can be one of our key questions. Something like on our surveys and all our best efforts, we still missed a segment of the population. As superintendent, how would you deal with this? What ideas do you have? So, I don't think it serves us to belabor what we didn't get. I think we should focus on what we did get. And again, there is such a close relationship between what we as a board thought was important and what the stakeholders felt was important.
Thank you, Ms. Font. Ms. Patrica?
So I just want to clarify something that Mr. Collins said. He said that the board was talking about combining 15 and 24.
2025.
Right. I want to make sure that the question that's in front of the board right now is combining 15 and 25 and adding 24.
That's correct.
I believe that's where we are in terms of consensus.
Molly, did you?
Right.
Molly, did you get that?
I did, and I've got it written down, so we're in good shape.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. We just want. Okay, are there any other, and thank you, Ms. Gittens, for bringing that up. We will make sure that we get out there.
And if I may just say very quickly, I was not trying to derail. I was not trying to say throw out the baby with the bathwater. I was bringing up a point that I feel is very, very important as we move forward.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, I don't see anyone that has any questions at this time, Molly.
Should we get consensus on the?
So Molly, do you need consensus on what we are, well, we are going to have consensus because what we are looking at today for these 10 items is actually what's going to be filled in on the flyer.
Correct. And so what will happen, everybody?
Come to a vote tomorrow.
We all have a clean sheet. That document says the school district of Lee County speaks, and it has them all bulleted in no particular order, bulleted. So what I'll go ahead and do is I'll combine 15 and 25 and add 24, so you'll have a clean copy prior to next week. I'll have that to you once we wrap up today.
It's going to go on to our agenda.
Perfect.
To vote. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, next.
Okay. And so I'm not going to go through the document where it says the explanation, because I think we've done a very thorough job between all of us here on this call to go through the explanation of the survey. But I do encourage the board, if you have any questions or concerns, you can always call me or Mike. We're always available, but it's pretty self-explanatory. And then the last thing I want to encourage everybody to do, I know that it's a lot of comments. I know it's a lot to read. And some of it's good, some of it's bad. We take it for what it's worth. But I would encourage the board at your own time to read all of those comments. And I would also encourage you to hold on to those. That once your new superintendent is hired and you guys start putting together 100-day entry plan or looking at goals for the next school year, to keep those on file. Those are really beneficial. Some boards will read them and then chuck them. I strongly encourage boards to hold on to those and use those and utilize them, because you had such a strong turnout. You had over 6,000 people take time out of their day to fill that out and to submit comments. And some of those comments are pretty lengthy. I would really hold on to those and possibly look at doing a 100-day entry plan with a new superintendent, or even when you start putting together your board goals for the next school year. I would really encourage you to hold on to those. And then the last thing we need to talk about today is the fun part. It's the salary. So everybody should have the document where it's the Lee County salary comparison. I cannot hear you at all, Ms. Jordan. I apologize.
To the superintendent, the flyer, so that way everyone does, they had an opportunity to look at the flyer and hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to look at the flyer. And then those, the 10 points that she was just referring to, that would go back on the back is we are seeking a superintendent who, and that's where that would be filled in. Everything right there. And then everything else is put on there. And now the, like she said, the fun part, the salary. And I did ask Mr. Dodick to be here today, just in case we had any questions that we may need to have answered. And then Molly, also on this, I know you said that we needed to have on the benefits, that we needed to have a salary, but can we have in there in a range from?
That's what I was gonna ask.
We can do a range of not be more than 10,000. If we get over that 10,000 mark, everybody's on this call. We've all interviewed for jobs. We've all seen job openings. If you see a job, and I'm not kidding you, and I tell you, I had a district try to do this. I had a district try to put down a job of 200,000 to 290,000. Anybody who applies for that job wants that 290. And when that person got hired, they tried to offer him the 200, and it was a catastrophic. The relationship got off on the wrong foot, and it didn't work out. So that's stuck in my brain for 7 years. I tell boards no more than 10,000 because anybody who applies is going to want that higher number. If you stick within that 10,000 and you go on that lower number, you can put incentives or goals for that candidate to then get that 10,000 higher. That's what I really encourage you as a board to do. And I do want to remind everybody on the wording of that, we have it worded very specifically that it will be in the range of, maybe 180 or 200, but it'll be determined by the qualities and the experience determined by the board. So you all have complete control. So if it's somebody who's a rock star who you never thought you could get, you can go on that higher end. If it's somebody that's coming in but ready to do this job, you could go a little bit lower and then have those goals. But even if we have one number, it's still worded where you all have control, and it's worded as in the range of.
They will be. So that's good. So then you had sent us you prepared the estimate from the counties around us? Yep. And then also, go ahead.
It's the national, and we did national on purpose. You all know Florida better than we ever will, but we wanted to show you nationally what you're going up against with comparative districts, just so you could see, because we're not doing just a statewide search. We're not doing just a regional search. We're doing a national search. So your candidates will also be looking at other districts about your size across the country. And as much as we all want to say that everybody's here for the kids, that paycheck certainly doesn't help. So we want to make sure that we're competitive without being insulting and without taking advantage of your taxpayers. So we got to find that happy number in there.
Have which they sent, which was national, and then we added as well on board docs the Florida one. Right. Just so that you would all have enough to look at, to compare. Ms. Gittens?
How have we taken into consideration the discussion on having a hybrid person that does have business as well as education experience? And my question to Ray and Associates is, how have we considered that? It seems we're just comparing educational positions, and how are we addressing the fact that if we get someone that has business experience as well?
Mike, if you don't mind, I'll take that.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Gittens, we're not. I'll be very honest with you, we're not. This is an educational position. They are applying for an educational position, so we are only comparing apples to apples. It would be impossible to do a comparison of bank. We don't know where that business person may be coming from, so we can't do every bank, every CFO, every CAO position. They're applying for this niche and this this area, so we're comparing that. So they know what they're getting into. We're not going to go into what they're coming from.
So can we, may I
Yes,
finish?
please, go ahead.
Thank you. So
If I may add to that, yes, if I may add, a hybrid candidate that's an applicant understands the public school system pay system. They've already been there once. So if they're applying, they're doing it with their eyes wide open. I hope that helps.
It does, and I'm not asking to have a whole other set of numbers, but I'm saying to the board as well that if we have a range of the 10,000 to look at the realization that if we have someone that is a hybrid that is worth more than what this states, that we look at that in our decision in the final, that we would go higher on that range for someone who has more experience.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Gittens.
So
Ms. Pacheco?
I think that we don't have the financial or fiscal ability to pay a CEO from the private sector.
That's
We
not
just
what I
don't.
said. I just clarified.
I'm making
Just
my
let her
comments now,
finish.
please. And I think that if we're going to get a hybrid candidate, it's going to be like a Trey Davis, like somebody who was in an industry completely different from education, or perhaps does have some education experience and is willing to make that financial sacrifice in order to serve the public. You know, Trey chose us as much as we chose him, and it was based on a very strong strategic plan that we have in place. So I don't know that looking at the salaries of CEOs or high-level executives in the private sector is even remotely realistic. Those are my comments.
And if I can jump in, guys, I apologize. It's hard being on Zoom and on the call and not being in the room with you all. What's really important is that what Ms. Gittens was talking about evaluating once you get those candidates, we encourage that. And it's not just a hybrid. It's if you have a superintendent who's coming from a massive system, let's say, you know, New York City Department of Education, who's ready to roll and has every quality you're looking for, you're going to want to go a little bit higher. And let's just say that let's just say for argument's sake that you say, let's be in the range of 250, and that this person is coming in at 275 of what he or she is currently making. You have that ability to move it up or down or set goals or incentives, but they're going to know the salary when they hit apply, so they know what they're getting into. So we already kind of nipped that in the bud. But then on the same token, if it's somebody who's coming in at a lower experience level, you can go lower. So we encourage what Ms. Gittens is suggesting. We encourage that out all candidates who you are considering. Every candidate needs to be considered for salary based off of what they have experience and qualifications, and also what they're currently making. But they're going to know when they hit submit what the salary is posted for.
Ms. Gittens?
Thank you, Molly, for clarifying that. That was where I was going with the conversation in the beginning.
Was that your comment? Okay, thank you. Ms. Vaughn?
Yeah, in looking at this national comparison, I think what would be very helpful here is if we had some kind of a cost of living index, because I see, for instance, Round Rock, Texas, advertising at $350,000. Well, I happen to know that Round Rock is a northern suburb of Austin. And right now, Austin, Texas is untouchable in real estate. And, I mean, you're paying, it's crazy, the real estate and the cost of living, because there's been a huge influx of California people coming into that area. And so they're going to have to offer that. Frankly, and I'm not sure about Oklahoma City, if it's oil money, I'm a little surprised at that. But I'm looking at Florida. I'm not sure if it's cost of living or just because this is Florida and we pay less. But I also noticed that, okay, so there's Norfolk on there, not, well, but you don't have any Northeast, the Northeast, New Jersey, Massachusetts. I mean, I can't even imagine what those salaries are like. But then again, if you're in those states, I think New Jersey has the highest taxes anywhere, plus the cost of living is very high in New Jersey. So is there any...
And I will interject there. New Jersey also just signed a cap where they can't make more than a certain amount. So New Jersey is capped for superintendent salaries, so we will be seeing a huge influx of people trying to get out of New Jersey at some
they're
point
capped
here
at
soon,
what are they?
There's a max.
But
so there's different state laws for different.
Okay, I'm just throwing it out there as areas of the country that I know the real estate, I mean, California in some areas where the real estate is sky high and the taxes are sky high. But, you know, there may be superintendents that feel the lure of paradise, so to speak, or whatever. You know, you don't know the reasons, but I mean, is there a possibility of getting, for instance, okay, so just to our south, Collier, that's a big difference. We know if you live in Naples and you know, cost of living in some of the areas, but surely you can live other than Naples if you're the superintendent in Collier. What else do you see as influencing some of these salaries that may or may not, especially as we look at Florida and right around us? What do you see that really influences how much? Is it if the district's a shining star, like A+ forever in the state, or is it's a beautiful area? What factors raise the salaries for the superintendent positions?
Yeah, there's a million different factors in response to your question. It can be climate, it can be the politics, what the temperature of politics is in that area. It could be if they're a high performing district. It can also be if it's a very diverse district. Some superintendents like the challenging district. Some want to go into a district that's been running, you know, above in the green for years and not a whole lot of changes needed. It's unlimited to set that, to even guess at that right now. We like to have it where it's in the range of, and then candidates will do their own homework on cost of living. And I think we kind of touched on this during our first meeting. You know, candidates are interviewing you before your application is even open. So they're looking at your area. They're looking at the cost of living. They're looking at your real estate. They're looking at your student test scores. They're looking at longevity of staff. They're looking at all of that before they even hit submit. They're going to know if there's for example, you know, back to what you were talking about with New York. Let's just say that there's a gentleman in New York who's making $350, but he lives in New York City and he's a rock star. He's going to know not to expect $350,000 coming to Lee County because real estate's going to be different. You know, the people that are going to be applying for this job are going to be doing their homework, is my point, and they're going to know what they're getting into and what they can, the equivalent of what they need to do to support their lifestyle and their families.
Okay, and if I can just finish the thought. Okay, so I understand that, but so from our point of view, we just have to do the best that we can and not worry that our neighbor to the south, Collier, much smaller, has traditionally offered much higher salaries, and
you know, I don't think that we can worry about what Collier's doing because I don't think she's leaving. So nobody's going there.
I'm just saying, using it as an example of what.
I have to agree with Molly, and that goes with any of us. When we're looking for work, we are always, I know I've always interviewed the people because I need to know if I'm able to work with them or who they are, if we're gonna mix. So I think that she's correct on that. And then Ms. Morgan, you had your hand up?
No, Molly handled it, thank you.
Oh, okay. Are there any other questions? And I have Mr. Dodick here, as I said, that could assist us with where we're at right now on this. So, Mr. Dodick, can I ask you please to right now, as it stands, the salary that we have offered is 209, is that correct? Correct. Would you mind coming to this?
Right
I'm
There's a seat right
There's
there.
one over
We could
there.
have you come sit with us, please.
Yeah.
I know you want to.
I don't even have a jacket on, I apologize.
You're okay.
Welcome.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
I've been here before.
At your own risk.
Yeah, could you just please, if
Sure,
you don't
Dr.
mind-
Savage is at $209,000, that's his salary, keep in mind, that's not his total compensation. I would remind the board that the superintendent in Collier has been there a long time, so her salary has escalated over the years.
If I'm correct, the 209 is what Dr. Atkins was receiving as well,
Yes.
correct? So that was the salary that,
I think when Dr. Atkins left, he was making more than that. I may be wrong on that, but
I thought that we gave him, that it was the same salary.
I think his salary was, I think Dr. Atkins was, I don't have that in front of me, so.
Okay.
And he had other,
I may be different. Okay.
Right.
more in the package.
So in helping us put these numbers or helping Molly, what are, you're saying that the 209,
Right.
with 209, and that still does not include the benefits and XYZ,
Whatever the
which is
person may
negotiated.
negotiate with you all, sure.
Right, because it is negotiated.
Sure.
So is there any questions for what that, Mr. Doda can help us? Ms. Gittens?
Well, Molly had said 10,000 is kind of that gap, that, range that we would have. If we're looking at 209, I think we need to see it with all the benefits and everything, and I would like to see what the final salary was for Dr. Atkins.
You mean the total compensation, not the salary?
I'd like to see both.
No, I understand.
Right.
I'm just trying to
For
clarify the term, salary and total compensation are,
But and I'd like to see both of those for Dr. Atkins and Dr. Savage. And we're looking here at an average on this one list of 284, but like you were saying, in Florida, it's a lot lower in some of these counties. I mean, I look at some of the equivalent, numbers, and it seems as though we're kind of in the average or the middle there. I'd like to see those numbers, and I think we go from there.
yeah, and I have
to
Suzette
figure
here, I
out
don't know if
what
she can possibly find those.
Well, I think, and Molly, because those are, once we come up with an estimated figure, the rest is negotiated.
Correct.
So we really would not have a true cost on what, and tell me if I'm wrong.
No.
That we would not have a true cost because it depends on what that person would
That's
negotiate
exactly right.
on.
Right, and I want to remind everybody too that we are advertising the base salary.
Base salary, yes.
We're only advertising the base salary. We are never going to advertise what those benefits entail. It just says an excellent benefits package so that there's room for negotiation. So we really want to kind of keep comparing apples to apples if we can and stick with that base salary number.
Okay, so Ms. Gittens, and then I'm going to ask Ms. Morgan.
Okay, and that's what I was saying. Excuse me, do you want to go first?
Go ahead.
Okay. And that's what I was trying to say. If we get those salaries and figure out what that base is.
All right, I have to weigh in if I may.
Yes, please, go ahead, Mr. Collins.
Okay, so number one, this salary conversation has been around for a couple of months. We cannot post your position or stay on a timeline
I can't hear him.
until we have a salary. Secondly is,
You cannot wait on the
if I look
timeline
at
for
all
salary.
3 Florida counties that are just on this sheet, the lowest, and none of them are as big as you, and the lowest is 223. And I will tell you that the competition now more than ever is significant. So I think this has to do with at least being attractive enough to draw out those candidates that you really are looking for in your next leader. So even if I go to Osceola County at 223, you're right now, $15,000 below at 09. So all I'm trying to get at is I think you need to take a number, I think you need to create a range and know that there's a chance you're going to negotiate up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Collins, and then Ms. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Gittens, finish what you were saying.
That's all I was saying, the same thing, that we need to get the range. My question to Ray and Associates is, you mentioned not saying that top number. In other words, how do we get to that point, or how do we discuss or find out amongst ourselves how high, this is the ceiling?
And
I'm not sure, I know.
Go ahead, Molly.
It's so hard to do. I can't tell if I'm over talking.
No, you're fine.
I apologize. I'm not trying to be rude.
You're not. Please, go ahead.
I think that what Ms. Gittens is referring to, I think is going to be a little bit later in the game. Once we know who your candidates are, then you start having those discussions about how high you want to go up for those candidates. Because right now, we don't know who they're going to look like. We don't know what their salaries are going to look like. We don't know where they're coming from. Let's have that discussion once we get to know who those people are and what we're up against. But right now, we just need to have that base number that is, and I call it, I channel my inner Bob Ross, finding a happy number that makes everybody happy, where it's attracted to candidates coming from a national level, and it leaves room for negotiations on the board side.
Thank you, that answers my question.
Ms. Morgan?
Yeah, so having looked at, before we sat down for this meeting, I went through the salaries for Florida and the national salaries, and I came up with a number of somewhere in the area of $250,000 to $275,000 is where we should be talking. So let's not talk about where we are now, let's talk about where we need to be, and what 250 represents to me is someone who maybe has not been a superintendent, but it wants the challenge, and 275, we're talking about somebody who is proven at the superintendent level with our population. But I think that's where we need to be talking. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, please? Ms. Patrica?
And I would be hesitant to advertise a salary that would attract someone who hasn't been a superintendent or a CEO. Okay. I believe we need somebody with the experience to hit the ground running. So I would lean in the direction of the higher salary.
Okay.
We with the understanding, what sort of drives my sort of view on this issue is we get what we pay for.
True that. Ms. Vaughn, do you have any comments?
No.
Ms. Giovanelli?
I'm just listening.
Okay. And I'm looking at Osceola on the Florida one, so I'm kind of confused on where you have 223 on that, on the one that you gave us for the national one, but then I received one, the Florida one, and Osceola was at 207 versus 223. So I'm not sure where the difference came in on that one. That's the only comment I have to say on that. Ms. Mary Fisher, what do you think?
So, in reviewing the national comparisons and Florida ones, I noticed that in some districts, there's 1,000 kids, and they're making, 118 or 106. And that's like one of our schools, not even. So I was kind of in the area where Mrs. Morgan went. I did not go as high, and I don't have the business experience that you have, so I was thinking that we would be somewhere in the range of 230 to 250. So that was kind of what my calculations brought me to. But now, and then we're talking then about the negotiated part, which brings us to the total compensation, which could be a significant amount. And I think when we review some of the former ones that we've had, you'll see that that makes a notable difference.
So I guess we need guidance as far as what is that range that we're looking at, Ms. Gittens?
Well, and I just think that was why I asked for numbers with base salary and another number with base salary plus compensation. Because I agree with Ms. Fisher that we start out too high, we add all the compensation. I need to be able to see that total number, because that, to me, makes a whole lot of difference.
But the thing is, like, right now, we have to, because this needs to be approved this coming week, so that way we can get this out and get it going. So that's why, as far as having a base number is what we're looking at, where then, of course, we can revisit. Is that what you were saying, Molly? We can revisit this, and we will revisit it when it comes to all the extra comprehension and benefits and all of that. And then I'm gonna, okay, and I'm gonna, Ms. Gittens, Ms. Fisher, Ms. Patrica, and then Ms. Morgan.
Okay, all I'm saying is, when we say, they're saying they want a base salary, is that just the lowest that we would offer without compensation?
Correct.
But then we need to be able to see what that means with compensation. Because I kind of go with what, Ms. Fisher was saying, that can take it way up and beyond what, we think. And as far, my last part is budget. Is there a already budgeted amount for superintendent? Because the budget we just passed takes us through till next year, so I don't understand that part.
So, go ahead, Ms. Fisher.
And then I was just going to ask Mr. Dodig to help us with understanding, to give us some idea of what the total compensation could bring it to, if you started, say, at 230.
Yeah, I think that's impossible for me to answer,
Okay.
simply because
What they're
those
asking
are
for.
things the candidate and your attorney would negotiate with your authority. So I mean, the person may want a car, the person, there's a lot of different things in superintendent's contracts across the country, so.
Yes. So for, in the interest of Lee County, can you give us some idea what maybe the last two?
I can't, I don't want to speak off the top of my head, though, so I don't have that in front of me. I don't know, Suzette.
That was what
Were you able to? Okay. Yeah. Okay, his is 293 with everything, so his salary's 209, and then subtract that from 293, and his total compensation is another $80,000 or so.
Thank you. Okay, so I have Ms. Fisher, I have Ms. Patrica, then Ms. Morgan, then Ms. Vaughn.
So the other thing we need to keep in mind is, and Molly, this is no slam against Ray and Associates, but some of the numbers in here are inaccurate. Polk just hired a new superintendent at 255, and that number is not listed in these documents. So we just.
Well, this is not, she did not produce this one.
Okay, all right, good. So then I'm not
Yeah.
slamming anybody.
Yeah, she's not.
Just understanding, Polk is a different county than we are, and I'm not going to talk about the cost of living there versus the cost of living here. I know that they were thrilled with their hiring process, and they're very happy with their new superintendent. And just let's keep in mind as well, the only county we're competing against right now for candidates is Broward.
Right.
Broward is the only county that has an open superintendent position. Taylor County will have a new superintendent appointed because they have an elected superintendent and their superintendent stepped down. So as we look at this statewide, people want to come to Florida, it's between Broward and Lee County, and we can't compete with Broward for a salary, but we do have to be competitive. So keep 255 in Polk in mind as you think about what we're trying to attract. Please, those are my comments.
Thank you. Ms. Morgan?
And I was just going to go back to, what we're talking about here. It's the total comp we can't discuss. We negotiate above the salary.
Right.
If we give a high salary and we don't want to give a lot of benefits, then that's our call. But we really need to be looking at what the base salaries are that are being offered by other counties. And I stick to my 250, 275 range, and I would like to hear from board members who feel that they are not comfortable with a conversation at that level.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn.
Oh, I was going to say I'm studying for the third or fourth time all of these, and I don't know if we're ready to say this, but I would like to put forth the idea that I would be comfortable with a 250 to 260 range. I think we have to do that. The housing costs are going up. There's a lot of costs that are going up across the whole nation. And you know, when we talk about the benefits, you have to think a lot of the benefits are actually basic things, because when you look even at a teacher or support personnel, it's just our health care alone is, how much is that up to now? Do you know, Mr. Doty? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Over $7,000.
yeah, that's a chunk just right there, and that's not even the car and the different things that would be standard for a superintendent. So I'd be comfortable with 250 to 260 range.
Okay, so if I may, I have, so Ms. Vaughn, you had stated 250 to 260, Ms. Fisher was 230 to 260, Ms. Morgan was 252.
I'm going to say 255 now, based on the Polk numbers, 255 to 275.
And Polk is just like us, pretty much, yes. And then we have the 255, 255. Ms. G, I need you to weigh in on this, if you don't mind.
I actually am just doing research on just southern states and what superintendents in southern states, because we weren't given any information like that to really compare. To me, more like apples to apples when you look at southern states. So that's what I've been sitting here doing, actually, because I think that is important. I agree with that we can't compare or have the same salary as Broward, but I think we have to consider, you know, some competition that would be out of state, like, you know, Alabama or Georgia, Louisiana, North Carolina, South Carolina. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Well, if you look at this on Broward, that's 229.
Yeah, but they have almost 300,000 kids.
Right, but I'm saying,
Exactly.
oh, I'm sorry, this is Brevard. I apologize. I'm looking at the wrong one. Yes, I
All right.
apologize.
So if you're getting closer to 250 to 265, is that what I'm hearing?
Pretty much the majority have spoken on that one.
No, I haven't given a number, but
No,
that's okay.
I'm saying I said pretty much the majority. I did not say everybody. I said the majority has stated that in between from the numbers that I'm looking at right now. So, Ms. Gittens.
I will go with the board. I think we need to do at least 250, and I'm thinking 250 to 270 because the rest is going to be negotiated. You may get someone that negotiates a whole lot of stuff and it pushes it way up.
But then again, we have a decision on that.
And I know that's our discretion, but we have to, you know, what if we get a candidate we all really like and they have all of these wants and desires, and the negotiation takes it extremely up. So
that happens though. So that's,
no, I know it does, and then, but that goes back to my question about what is there a budget, and I don't know. Is there some ethereal number that we cannot pass, or is the sky the limit?
We do have reserves that will cover this small difference between what is being paid to the superintendent now and what is being paid.
So
We have significant reserves, and look at the difference between 209 and 255 in a $2 billion budget. We do have reserves to cover that.
And I'm not aware, I haven't been told that there's a limit on the superintendent's salary. I do want to point out, though, for you, on the Florida chart, and most of these superintendents are elected, and their salary is governed by Florida statutes. So there's not even ability for those people, and that depresses the salaries significantly on that chart.
thank you for bringing that up.
And we
So,
are in that.
Mr. Collins, it looks like from what I'm hearing, maybe 255, what Polk had just offered, that's between the 250 and the 260. So
Yeah,
255?
250 to 260 or 250 to 265, I think. Ms. Jordan, 250 to 265 gives you a range to work with.
Is that?
Because you can always go to 270. That difference isn't going to make a difference to whether they apply.
Okay, so what number would we put on that then?
250 to 265.
That would be the range.
Correct.
Okay.
That's what we need.
Okay, so is that acceptable to everyone here sitting at the table? Ms. Giovanelli? I need you to participate.
I know, I just.
You look
it's
good, but I
high.
need you to participate.
It's high. I was thinking more like Ms. Fisher was,
But Ms. Fisher
but-
was in the 260.
Where's Ms. Fisher now?
Yeah.
Where are you at now?
No, I said, well, we're advertising the base only, right?
Correct.
So I would, I would go with the 250 range, yeah.
I'd be okay with 250. I mean, I keep thinking about our present superintendent and what was offered there, and our prior superintendent, and so that,
But we
We've
want to
had
look at long
inflation
range.
I know.
And Dr. Atkins started at 180 something, so.
I know.
And you know better than any of us how real estate is and everything.
Well, good luck with that, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
So 250 is a good range.
Ms. Gibbs has one more question, Mr. Collins, so if she could speak and then I'll call on you. Go ahead, Ms. Gibbs.
Okay, and Mr. Dodig brought up the fact about the elected official. I mean, I know it's out there that there is a possibility that that could happen in '24, and you said that the salaries are set by legislation and they're somewhat suppressed. So how does that work? I don't know if you know the answer, that if we give someone 250 and then there's an elected and the salary goes down, is that a possibility? And I know it's a lot of what ifs, but
Yeah,
I'm just
I have to defer to your counsel on that type of question because that would involve some interpretation of the laws and their contracts and
Mr.
things
Quick?
like that.
It would depend on if it does go to elected, it would depend on how it's written, but generally, as I would see it, is that you would have the superintendent that you hired would be out unless he or she ran for the elected office, and then that office would be governed by whatever the legislatively determined salary would be. Now, that's something I would expect and hope your superintendent candidates would do their homework on. Right now it's just a discussion and nothing set in stone, but it's similar to what you're seeing with a lot of the various county police departments, that not all of them are sheriffs. You have a hired chief. In 2024, you're getting sheriffs across the board. Those chiefs presumably could stay within the department, but they will be replaced at the top, and then that'll be governed. So I would envision, depending on how it's written, but I would envision it would work the same way, yes.
And there is a recent history of a county doing this, and I don't have it off the top of my head, John, but this has happened within the last 5 years.
All the candidates that are serious candidates will be well aware of your situation. So it's not a worry about informing them. And I don't think it's going to affect their application.
Okay, so then, Mr. Collins, so if we can, or Molly, if we can go ahead and move on. So I think the consensus is that we keep it at the 250 to 260? I'm sorry,
65.
250 to 265?
Okay.
Can
All
we
right,
get a
we're ready.
thumbs up?
That's
'Cause I didn't hear that from what came out
Okay,
here.
so if we are going to put on our flyer for the salary and benefits in the range of the 250 to 265,
yes, please.
okay? Can I please have, I'm just going around the room, Ms. Morgan, Ms. Vaughn, Ms. Giovanelli, okay, Ms. Patrica, Ms. Squittens will live with it, Ms. Fisher, and myself, yes. Okay, so, yeah. So we have consensus, yes, sir. So So where does that take us to right now, Miss Molly or Mike? So you're going to get this to us, so that way we can have it on the agenda, so we can vote on that.
And I'll go ahead and get that cleaned up version to you here as soon as we hang up. But otherwise, as far as Mike and I are concerned, you guys are done with us. Unless there's something you need from us, we're in good shape.
Debbie, if I could.
Great. We have one question, please.
It's not a question, Molly, it's a comment. When I opened that brochure that you're going to be putting out, it felt like home. Like you got Lee County as far as I'm concerned. I had seen some of the other brochures you produced for other districts, and they didn't feel like home, but you got us. So I
wish I could take credit for that, but
I have
that's
to say
your
that.
team, actually. Your internal team did
Yes.
that, and they did a fantastic job. They did a fantastic job. I wish I could take the credit, but that is all your internal team. They are rock stars.
Our team.
Our team did
Lauren maybe.
produce this with the branding, and then
awesome. That really felt
Ray
good.
and Associate put the meat in the back.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So thank you for saying that. Okay, guys, well, thank you so much. If we have any questions, we'll definitely reach out to either one of you, and we really appreciate all your work.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you, you as well. Okay, so next on the agenda, wow, we got through that. That was not painful at all. And it's 11:49.
It was a little painful with the
Well,
technology.
technology, we're going to have to really try to figure out how
Jordan, you
to.
don't need me any longer, right?
No, thank
Okay,
you so much, Mr. Dodick, for being
Thank you,
here.
Mr.
Really
Dodick.
appreciate that. And
I just want to let you know I have a 12 o'clock hard stop. The meeting was scheduled till 12, and I do have to leave at
I
12.
think we all have hard stops, so, yeah. But thank you for telling me. I do want to bring up, if, for the good of the order, I would like to propose that we hold a special meeting at 5:30 on Monday, October 18th. And the rationale for this special meeting is that the staff has, and I have it written down so I don't forget stuff. Staff has requested, has received requests this week from individual and community organizations to present suggestions regarding redistricting to the board prior to the October 19th briefing, at which we will be asked to provide staff with directions regarding going with the one of the county maps, or B, developing our own map. So I am requesting for an October the 18th meeting that will implement the board policy 1.11, section A5, which states, if multiple members of a group wishes to address the school board on the same issues, the board may request the group to select one or more representatives to present comments to the board on behalf of the members concerned in the relevant issues for a period of time determined by the chair, based on the number of individuals presented, to a maximum of 5 minutes per speaker. So this is what I would like to have a consensus on, so that way we can make sure that we are hearing from the community regarding the upcoming maps redistricting.
Ms. Vaughn, and then I'll go
Ms. Vaughn?
after her.
Yeah, would you repeat when you say from the community,
Well,
are you
public
talking-
speaking.
Wait a minute, let me finish.
Okay.
I know NAACP had a map. Are we talking about community organizations, or are we just talking about public comment?
Community organizations or public comments regarding
So what
the maps.
organizations have signed up to present?
I don't know.
None.
Okay, see.
At this time, they've reached out to the superintendent's office for us to have this conversation, because they
I want to know what groups, because if we're going to give the opportunity for one group to present, then we have to put it out there. I mean, there's going to be groups that have different, for instance, the city of Cape Coral, the city of Fort Myers,
This would be-
NAACP. I'm not willing to say a special meeting until I know that there's some kind of way that all organizations that have a vested interest in presenting are able to do that.
I agree with you.
Okay, so that's why
I had been
I'm
asked.
not in favor of.
I had been asked to do this because the superintendent's office has been receiving quite a few calls and requests for us.
From whom, though?
From community.
Members or organizations?
Members and organizations, so that, because they want to make sure that they are heard by us prior to us speaking on this. So that's why they asked me to bring this forward, and that's why I brought it forward.
And I'm not going to support it until I know more information, because I think just a bunch of requests that, I'm not saying they shouldn't have the opportunity. I'm just saying that a bunch of people that had the foresight, good for them, to say they wanted this opportunity, that's fine. But if we're giving this special meeting to a few people that called and a couple organizations, then it is not fair that we, you know, I mean, because it could be coming out very biased. It could be coming out like, and that'll fall on us as a board if it winds up that the only people that show up are one side of the issue. If we're going to do this, we need to have a variety of.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it to you, because on our brief, bless you.
Thank you.
Ms. Jordan, that's why I'm saying that I'm not supporting it until I have more information.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I know it was because they wanted us to, oh, I'm sorry, Miss Stillwell.
I was just going to say, I texted Dr. Carlin, so she's heading down. She might be able to help
thank
answer
you.
some of the questions.
Because what they're, I know that supposedly it was based on making sure that we heard, because we are getting briefed on this. So before we get briefed, and then they're going to ask us for a recommendation, that we are listening to our public, as we keep saying that we need to do. And she's going to be right here.
And I think I was
Fisher,
next.
and then-
I was,
You were for Ms. Fisher? I'm sorry.
well, yes.
Okay.
My thought is, I thought we were getting briefed on this, and if it's at a briefing, what is the date? I thought the date for the briefing was the 19th, is it not?
It is.
So at a briefing, does that not allow for public comment?
It does.
So that's where I'm confused as to why we would have an additional meeting. The briefing has been posted and has been advertised, and everyone knows that it's out there, and I think that that would be the fair thing to do.
I am fine. I'm bringing this to you all. You decide. I'm not saying we're doing this. I'm bringing it to you. I work for you. Ms. Fisher.
Yes, so I was on the School District of Lee County website at Redistricting.
Okay.
And so there's an entire timeline for the school board, starting with September, including our, to be presented next week, our board briefing and another board briefing in November, and then the board action meeting in December. And it has an opportunity for anyone who goes on the website to put their name, address, and email address, and put their comments in regarding redistricting. So I don't know if we've had any response to that yet, but that, you know, that's one way. And if we have the two board briefings, can we notify those people who contacted you?
They did not contact me.
Oh, okay. Well, anyone who's interested, yes. And then I guess Dr. Carlin is going to address it, so I'll stop now.
Dr. Carlin, if you don't mind, the question is, when I brought up the requesting the proposed special meeting, the question was what groups wanted to come, and they wanted to make sure that if it's not one-sided, that if certain groups were here, we need to make sure that all groups are here, and that at the we have the briefing on that next day where people will be able to have their public comments, and then we have multiple other options, which Ms. Fisher just spoke about, where they will have opportunity to speak, as well as email us any concerns or questions. Did I miss anything? I think I got it all right.
Okay, good. Yes, good morning, board members. I guess we're almost at the afternoon point here. So it's a pleasure to be here with you. Just briefly, we have received a direct outreach from the NAACP. We've had comments relative to, we have 3 minutes at board meetings and other times. They do have a little bit longer presentation, not lengthy, please don't misunderstand that, but more than the 3 minutes would permit. So that was the nexus of our request. There have been other individuals that have, mentioned if they had the opportunity to present perhaps an alternative map or some additional information, they would like to do that. So we just bring that forward to you as an opportunity for the board to hear from these organizations. Our intention would be to open it up to everybody, so it would not be limited to the one group that has reached out. We are hearing, though, that there are requests from other community members that they'd like to come forward. They're just feeling constrained by the 3-minute limit. So your board policy 1.11, as Ms. Jordan explained, does permit a group to come forward. They may have multiple members that can come forward, and they would each be limited to, the maximum of the 5 minutes per speaker. So for the NAACP and for other groups that we're hearing would like to come and exceed the 3 minutes, that's the reason for the request. So we will work at your pleasure. However you decide you'd like to proceed, we're very happy to do that. It was an idea we discussed because we were starting to hear from the community that there were some more people that wanted to come forward and they felt constrained by the 3-minute time limit.
Ms. Morgan, I know you had your hand up.
I'm going to pass for the moment.
Okay. Any other questions for?
I have one.
Oh, sorry, Ms. Gittens.
So what is our deadline? We had discussed this, I guess it was last week, and there was a concern that we don't have time to make any decisions or whatever. What is our timeline based on the county commission's timeline? And this may be something you have to get back to us.
No.
But based
we have the answer
on
for you.
Based on the county commission's timeline to draw and agree on their boundaries and their districts. And I kind of think, and legally, I know that we can do our own, but what is that time frame? Can we change hours? My understanding is that any time we can change hours based on our charter. And there's something about on an odd year, but once the census comes out, we have the opportunity to change it as well as the county commission has the opportunity. So I just want to know, how does that?
Well, I know Ms. Patrica asked the other day, she was the one who brought that up, was there a time certain that we had to have that? And then I believe that for Davis demographic, for them to help us through that process if that was the avenue that we were going on, but we have not yet seen all the maps yet, right, or been briefed on it. But when come the 19th is when they're going to ask us to make a recommendation.
Well, I thought the 19th was when the county was coming back to show and discuss that 6th map. And it is out online at this point. I looked at it last night.
I think there's 2 sixes, but
6 A and B, but they're on the.
I gotta go. I just want to wish you a good day and thank you for being here. Safe travels. Thank you.
Jordan, if I may, I may be able to answer Ms. Skitten's question. So the time frame that we have distributed to you as a board is October 19th. Our intention is to do exactly as Ms. Skitten shared, which was to have the county share maps now 6A and 6B. So we last heard there was going to be one more map. Well, now there are 2. There's 6A and 6B. So those will be presented by the county to you on October 19th at the 1 p.m. briefing. Our time frame, which is a really good question, we've put that out to you as well. On October 19th, our intention is, as was stated, to come forward and to say, here's the information, here are all the maps. We're going to walk you through and allow you to give us strengths and opportunities from each one of those maps. And at the conclusion of that briefing, our intention is to ask you the question, as a board, we're going to need some direction. Do we want to stick with one of the county maps? You don't have to pick the county map that day, but do you see a map that has a foreseeable future? Or would you forget the maps, let's just draw our own map? The reason why we need that decision, or at least that guidance from you as a board on October 19th, is because if you are going to go with your own map, Davis Demographics does need some lead time. They will need that time to be able to develop our own individual map as a district and then bring that back to you in November so that there's time for comment, time for questions, and then we know by December we have to wrap this process up. That is per statute. So that's the reason why we need that guidance from you next Tuesday.
That was what I was asking. What was our time frame? So the answer is, our time frame is December. That her discussion also says to me that we should not be listening to any input at this point prior to us knowing all of the information straight from the county, that here's the other maps. We have not been educated or seen the other maps, and I just feel we should see all the information before we listen to comments. And so,
go ahead, Ms. Vaughn.
Yes, Dr. Carlin, you mentioned 6A and 6B. Is one of those the NAACP map?
They both are.
Miss Dr. Carlin?
Carlin?
So we received a copy of the map just yesterday, and we were able to post that. We have requested some conversation with the county, which we will continue to have. So I don't have that direct information that is the NAACP map, but I will be having a conversation with the county to discuss that.
So that said, you also mentioned the county would be presenting. Why could the NAACP not present with the help of the county at that point? Why would they need a special meeting? Why wouldn't they just be part of, because we had a heads up. We knew there was a sixth map coming when we had our last briefing. What is preventing them from presenting on that briefing day?
So according to board policy, any outside groups would currently have the opportunity to share public comment for 3 minutes at the board meeting or at a special meeting, so we do not permit more than 3 minutes. You do have a board policy 1.11 that does give the chair some latitude. If you as a board say we'd like to grant a group or groups the opportunity to come in, you can grant them more than the 3 minutes. You do have board policy that speaks to that, but it may not happen at a board briefing. It is a board meeting or a special meeting. The other opportunity we wanted to provide was, we are hearing in the community there may be other groups that want to come forward. We did not want to limit who would be available to come or able to come, and so we wanted to just make this meeting specifically for any group that would like to come forward that does not want to be constrained by the 3 minutes. And we're hearing there may be others out there that want to do that.
With that answer, I'm going to say that I oppose a special meeting where just anybody can come in. I would not oppose special interest groups coming in. And what I'm talking about there is what I said before. The city of Cape Coral, they haven't weighed in. The city of Fort Myers, maybe the village of Estero, or different areas, subdivisions that exist in our county. But what I'm concerned about when we just open it to anybody who wants to do it, or say, well, I have a group, I'm the XYZ group, or whatever, we're in the situation as a school board that's a little bit different from the county commissioners in that we are single member districts. And so, what will prevent someone who is running for election somewhere in one of the counties, and we've already been told that there's one county that, it doesn't affect me personally, so that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying, what if, people can have special vested interests, and I am against any group just coming in. I think people that want to make comments, they can have their 3 minutes or whatever during, we usually don't have as many people coming in during the briefings, and so they will have opportunities. But I think it's totally the wrong way to go to say, we as a board, okay, we've had a few people call in and say, well, we'd like more than 3 minutes. And, oh, sure, we're going to do that. No, I think it should be we as a board, and maybe we can find a date for this, feel that we want to hear from other communities of interest and invite different groups to come in and give everybody, and I mean, this is coming up so soon, we need to invite these people in because this will turn out to be one-sided. Well, and we need, that's my opinion, we need to avoid that, and individuals have plenty of time to give their 2 cents, and that's how I feel about it.
Mr. Quick?
Yeah, I was just going to point out, according to your board policy, this is 1.116, in order for there to be in order for somebody to fall as a special request for the 15-minute presentation not to exceed 15 minutes, they would have to make the request in writing 12 days before the board meeting. So I'm not sure anybody else would be able to fall within that special request because you're outside of 12 days right now.
That's right. And it is here, so who's presenting 6A and 6B? I mean, it is on here.
Yes, so staff will be coming before you to have this conversation at 1 o'clock or thereabout on October 19th, and we have extended an invitation, just like we did last time, for the county to share their maps. They shared maps 1 through 5 last time as part of our presentation. They did promise a map 6, and it turned out that there is actually a 6A and a 6B. So we have invited them to come as part of our presentation.
All right, well, so at this time, from what I am hearing, we do not have an appetite for this to do, and because of the 12 days. Okay. Oh, Ms. Giovanelli?
So, and I understand and agree with the policy. So, and I think knowing now where this is coming from, I want to make sure that we have a designated day and they would have the opportunity to be able to have the presentation. I think when he was cut off, he felt like he was cut off, but he really exceeded his 3 minutes.
Correct.
So maybe we have a day and we plan it 12 days in advance for the process and allow them to have the opportunity to speak longer than the 3 minutes. But that would be for any groups that would come in. It would be, the meeting that would be redistricting day, whatever. But that would be my recommendation, because I don't want him to feel that he was, think he felt cut off, and this is very important. So, and it was very important to them, and I recognize that, and I value that, and it is very important to me as well. But I think it needs to be, a redistricting meeting day, and that would allow for other groups to come in as well. And at that point in time, we'll also know kind of what the Board of County Commissioners are doing. And so I know we need to do it probably sooner than later, so I don't want to kick it down the road too long, but we need to allow for others to be able to jump in on that same type of meeting.
So
that's all.
It should not be for one group. It needs to be for multiple groups.
Ms. Jordan, may I add one piece of information? And so the reason why we came relative to a special meeting, just for a point of clarification, is we are asking you on the 18th, or excuse me, the 19th, to go ahead and give us some direction as a board relative to, are we going with county maps or are we going on our own? And the reason, again, that we need to ask that question is, if we are going to go on our own, Davis Demographics needs lead time. They can't turn that map around in like a week. They need time to be able to look at all of the variables relative to redistricting, all of the variables we talked about with Mr. Pre-Bruno last time, to make sure we are legally compliant with the map that we produce. That time frame needs to be several weeks is what Davis Demographics has requested. If we push this, my only concern into pushing this too much further down the road toward the end of October is if we come back and we say, okay, we like map 6 that has been provided or map 20 that's been provided by the community, then we are in essence having to go back and vet that through Davis Demographics to run all the variables, run it through legal to make sure that it is legally compliant. I am concerned about the time frame getting pushed too far close to the end of October into November. And then, of course, we have the requirement to have this certified in December. So that was our thinking behind a special meeting, would be to extend that opportunity to any group, and I hear Mrs. Vaughn's concern. I totally understand that. Our intention would be, though, other groups that wanted to come forward, some of them have come forward to the county commission. So that's just our thinking. Again, we'll operate at the pleasure of the board, but if we give those 12 to 14 days notice, we're now toward the end of October. So I just wanted to point of clarification, and then you give us guidance on where you'd like to proceed.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
Okay, well, first of all, on November 2nd, I believe it is, the County Commission does have an open forum for anyone to come and to present questions and other thoughts, and that is already posted and it's out there, so groups will be going there as well. Two things. One, I think, to me, it would be difficult to hear someone's argument about something that I have not been briefed on yet. So to do something ahead of time, that was why I said, no, we should wait until our briefing day, because we need to see the facts and the data before we can understand where everyone is coming from. And I do understand that NAACP and other groups out there want to give us their opinion, and I agree with that. We need to hear from everyone. And thirdly, the county, I would suggest that we ask the county to work with us on this, and the reason being, they have all of the algorithms, they have everything set up. They actually got the information about maps 6A and B and ran it through their process, and as far as demographics and et cetera, and all of the filters that they showed us when they were here before. So my question is that if we would decide that we're thinking about doing our own, to work with the county or to ask if they would work with us, because they've got everything all set up. It's basically just running it through their system like they did this last map. It would be a lot quicker and a lot easier for them to do it. And deciding on the 19th, okay, we're going to go on our own before we can even see what that looks like, to me is almost a little premature. You're saying, okay, we don't want to go with any of the county's maps, but what's the alternative? I just feel that we need some time to look at what is that alternative. We may find that in our process, it is the best to go with the county, or maybe it isn't. But I just like to have all of the data and information together before we make a decision.
Yeah, and even just looking at we definitely need to have information on this, because even looking at that, it changes like the whole dynamic for the entire board pretty much.
It changes all of us around, different ones running against other ones, other ones cut out altogether. So, I mean, we need to look at that and see it.
Ms. Morgan and then Ms. Giovanelli?
Well, so I just want to hear from the two experts on the technical.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, so essentially what I'm hearing is that the board wants to abide by its policy. It doesn't want to create a precedent by doing something different in response to the community. So I think we should schedule something 12 days out, give people the opportunity to provide input. If it makes for a tight schedule for Davis Demographics, that we'll have to work with that. But I agree that they need to be heard, but I do not want to set an exception that creates an opportunity long-term for new precedents.
Ms. Fisher?
Yeah, so, and I agree with that. And in 2011, after much discussion, we did go along with the county. However, since then, we became a 7-member board and instituted single-member districts. So that really has changed the composite for this time around. So I think we do need to have a meeting and get more information and see what the options truly could be. I mean, it's easier for the voters if we go along with the county commission, but maybe not so much right now. So we need to really get all the information that we possibly can to consider before we make an educated decision.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, ladies.
I'm sorry, can you just ask if anyone would even look into the idea of asking the county, if we do decide to do our own, of asking the county to help us with that process?
I don't think we can, but Ms.
Well,
I think that's what Davis Demographics
That's what they
does.
do.
It's no
I-
different.
yeah.
They're using a
The
demographic.
GIS, yeah,
Yeah.
they use all that. Mrs. Vaughn?
Yeah, and for the sake of people who are listening and may not have heard Mr. Quick read that, the policy, I think it would be helpful for him to read that policy again, and that would give everybody a better understanding. And after hearing that policy, I'm all in favor of, as Ms. Morgan and a couple other people said, selecting a date 12 or more, 12, 14, 15 days out, and that would make it fair for everyone. It wouldn't just be, and I think it also needs to be, if you read it again, is my understanding that it has to be a group, or could it be an individual?
It can be either an individual or a group. So I can read it
Okay.
for you if you'd like.
Okay, if you would read it one more time for the
It's-
sake of everybody listening out there. And
It's Board Policy 1.11. Specifically, I'm looking at subsection 6, which is entitled Special Request Presentations. Under A, it says, an individual or group desiring to make a formal presentation to the school board at a regular meeting, special meeting, or public hearing shall submit the request to the superintendent for consideration. Then there are subs underneath that. Sub 1, the request must be submitted to the superintendent 12 days before the meeting at which the requester wishes to make the presentation. The written request shall contain, at a minimum, the following information: the name and address of the requester, the nature of the information to be presented, the maximum length of time requested to make the presentation, and the specific action desired by the school board. Then there's 2, if the requester desires to circulate written material to the school board as part of the presentation, a copy of such material shall accompany the written request. Upon receipt of a request, the requester shall be sent a copy of this policy. Sub 3, presentations shall not exceed 15 minutes in length. Only one presentation may be made at any time with respect to a particular issue. Sub 4, it talks about prior issues regarding public comment. This is sections 5A to E and 5A to F shall apply. Those are dealing with public comment before. And then there's also a sub B, but I believe that deals with public hearings. That deals with charges and allegations for public hearings, so we're not dealing with that.
so with that,
Did you just say that, and I thought I knew that one, but that only one group can speak on the topic? So if I say I'm coming in as a group and I want to speak on map 6, I alone can only speak on that. They cannot come in?
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I don't think,
that's what I
I don't
just
think it's written to be that restrictive. I think the way I read it is it's being, so you don't have, one group of 15 people making the exact same presentation or virtually the
it's
same
one group.
presentation. But if
Okay.
you have
Per
different groups that are talking about generally the same issue, which was redistricting, which is a big issue and covers a lot of things, but they're talking about different considerations and presenting maybe different maps or things like that. That's the way I read that. It's not quite as
Having a
restrictive.
spokesperson for that individual group.
Yes, so you don't have, like I said, 15 people coming in talking about maps, presenting their own maps, say, we'll call it map 7, since we were talking about
Right.
6A and B, and having 15 people present for 15 minutes on map 7 to
Gotcha.
try to get around this 15-minute restriction.
Okay. thank you. I just want to make sure clarification on that one. Okay. So then we'll look at, if that's what everybody's, feels like we need to do, we will hands up on that one and we'll move forward for the 12-day. Okay, thank you, ladies.
And so reading here, it looks like the Board of County Commission is going to have a meeting on the 19th as well, right? Which is what you said.
No, you said the
Yeah, they're coming here.
No, I was talking to Ms. Dr.
Yes,
Carlin.
they will meet on October 19th as well as the November 2nd. Yes, ma'am.
Right. So we might have a little more information on the 6A and 6B by then, or at that meeting is what I'm saying. And then we can set ours up that evening.
From that, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so going around for good of the order, Ms. Vaughn, did you have anything for good of the order?
I don't.
Ms.
No, and I sent an email last night, but I'm holding that for Dr. Savage on Monday, so we'll just, that was on the two things that I had mentioned.
I didn't see that.
That's
so
okay. Well, I just said it again, so.
Okay.
And let everybody know, I'm putting it off till Monday when Dr. Savage is there
Okay.
together. So it's up, because it needs to be directed to him. So.
Perfect, thank you.
Can wait.
And then, Ms. Fisher?
No, I have nothing right now.
Thank you. Ms. Gittens?
I don't have anything. I sent an email to everyone about what I'll bring up next week.
And I have none.
And I have none, and I really want to thank you, Mr. Quick, for joining us again. Always
Thank you.
appreciate you coming over and visiting with us. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. It's nice to see everybody too. So
Nice to
it's,
see you.
you.
Safe
Thank you again.
travels.
Thank
And
you.
we will
Enjoy your
adjourn
conference.
this meeting.
Yeah. Fun.
I hope to.
That's your old stomping ground, you said. So
Is it? But I haven't been there,
That's nice.
25 plus years. So that's why I said I don't know the restaurants. If the restaurants are still there, who knows?
I'll be curious if the town has changed.
I don't know.